There are pots that were sold off that were specific for heating resin to remove chest hair.
Sorry, I'm suddenly picturing a yard sale.
One of the biggest things that he sold off was a sex chariot. It was like a chariot that he could have sex in.
Why do I feel like there are so many world leaders who have definitely owned a similar thing?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of 500 Open Tabs. I am Josie Azam.
And I'm Josie J. Juarez.
And you're probably wondering where your regular hosts are.
They have really had enough of all of this madness, and they're gone.
Understandable.
Either that, or they decided to finally put their money where their mouth is and actually keep it Josie.
Or they're just using the map. They're on the road, the 500 Open Tabs map. They're just out.
Yeah, that's what they do.
No,
Yeah.
If you are a longtime listener of the show, then you'll know that at the end, if you listen all the way to the end, if you're a true head, you know at the end they say, keep it Josie. And the reason is that we were the first listener emails. So wait, Josie J, so did Hannah just text you out of the blue and be like, I need help?
So Hannah actually showed up at my house that day or the night before or something. It was my birthday too, that she first recorded.
Big ask.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, showed up at my house because they were staying with us. And she was like, so I'm recording a podcast tomorrow. Also, will you? You have an open tab, I bet. Can you tell me something? I was like, I opened this tab recently again.
What was your first tab? I don't remember now.
It was on, I'm not even going to pronounce it right, but carcinization, which is the process of how so many different species evolved to become more crab-like over time. And
that's right.
Yeah.
And
what was yours? I don't remember either.
It was dumb. I didn't understand the show because the show didn't exist yet. So mine was, I had been joking about how I have two kids, and I was joking about how to make them go to sleep with an ether rag, like in the Cider House Rules. It's not a good joke. But then I was so tired, and I was like, what were the Cider House Rules? And they're just rules about living in the cider house. It's not even that great. Now I've listened to so many listener emails and tabs, and I'm like, oh, those are so good. So
I know.
We're on the other side now. The color tab you told Hannah about the evolution.
Oh, Gru?
Oh my God. I am I'm an evangelical for it. If I feel like there's a lull in a conversation, I will just be like, did you know? Think about it. Black, white, red. But it's not black and white. It's shades.
Yeah.
I loved it. That was my favorite, actually, I think, for a long time.
She called me and my sister for that one because she told us she was going to do that, and we both studied linguistics. And so she was like, help me understand it. I don't get it. Why didn't they see blue? And it's like, no, they saw it. They just didn't name it that. They didn't have to name it something different. And she's like, but why?
It's madness. So let's go in the Wayback Machine. How do you know Hannah?
I have known her. We were actually just trying to figure out how long it's been. We first saw each other, encountered each other when she would have been in middle school, because she and my older brother, Sean, were in band together. So probably at a middle school concert that I went to. And that would have been in turn of the century times.
Oh no.
Yeah, back in
it's true.
2000, 2001-ish. And they became really good friends pretty quickly. So I really knew her, and I don't remember actually being introduced because it's long
it's
ago
middle
enough.
School.
And then she ended up marrying my brother, and I feel like we were already to the point of friends before that, but after they got married, they were both in school, I was in school, and so they lived pretty close to campus, and I'd just kind of walk there a bunch and hang out with Hannah. And it
was you, me, and Dupree. You were just there.
Yeah, my brother wasn't there. My brother was either at school or work or something. We'd just hang out. Especially after they got two kittens. That was the best way to like spend time just after a class or something. That's when we really got close, I think. I got really into like so many of the things she was working on with her illustration, and we had really good conversations, and I think we've been close in that kind of a way ever since. What about you and Kava? What's the first encounter on that side?
We both attended USC to go to the master's program in film, and which Kave jokes all the time about, which I'm always like, yeah, no, I know, it's expensive. And I think we were like the two poorest students there, because on day one, it's like the introduction day, we're both in line for the bursar's office. Kave's in line, something was messed up with his student loans. Basically, we hadn't paid for the classes, so we were like in trouble already. And I think we just got like a vibe that we like had similar genes because I'm half Arab and my dad's Moroccan. And so anyway, we were in line and we figured out that we were both in the film program. And Kavi told a joke. There was this really shitty app at the time called Bump, where you could bump somebody's phone if they also had the app, and it would exchange the contact info. And I was like, I am ready to network. I am ready to make friends. And I said, do you use Bump? Do you have Bump? And he goes, whoa, I have a girlfriend. But the delivery was so funny. Like, I'm not doing it justice. Like, it makes him sound like a jerk. The delivery was so funny that I was like, we have to be friends. And here we are, like 15 years later. Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? I don't care. Are you excited? Do you want me to go? It's either or.
You go for it. I don't care. I'm excited to fumble our way through this.
We're gonna make them look so good. Everyone's gonna be like, wow,
absolutely.
They are true podcast hosts. I mean, I listened to musical splaining for years too. Not as religiously as this though, because this one, it's like an adventure. Like, I am not neurodivergent. I am very neurotypical. But literally everyone I love deepest in my life is autistic, ADHD. They're just the most interesting, beautiful people. They're the only people worth listening to.
Like, I'm learning so much, and it's like, there have been a couple of times where it's like, oh, I can close that tab. Honestly, most of my tab list is more in the form of like a watch later list on YouTube.
Oh, okay,
rather
that's
than
good.
Like opening tabs. I don't always open the tabs, but then the watch later list just grows and grows.
Were you aware of the trend where people were asking their boyfriends, their American boyfriends, how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you're familiar. And it was like always a surprising amount of times, like that they were like once a quarter, and now there's like a trope of like, what is your Roman Empire?
Yes.
You know, like what is something you think about very often? Okay, you're aware.
Yeah.
My Roman Empire is the Roman Empire. I think about it every day.
Oh my gosh.
I have no background in it whatsoever. So there is a podcast called History of Rome. It's by Mike Duncan. That's essentially my source today. It's not my tab. I'll give a real tab. It's the Wikipedia article about who I'm going to talk about. Mike Duncan's History of Rome, if you're a podcast head, which you are if you're listening to this, I've listened to it 3 times all the way through.
Wow.
It is 73 hours long.
Oh my gosh.
And for context, the War and Peace audiobook is 60 hours long.
Oh my goodness.
And I listen to it every night to fall asleep.
Incredible.
And I get through it. Like I'll listen to 15, 20 minutes and I'll fall asleep. And the next day I back it up 5 minutes and then that's how I fall. It's relaxing to me to wipe away my own troubles, knowing that horrific things have happened in the past. Like, my stuff feels very small compared to chaos. And it's also like, it feels like watching a Game of Thrones episode in your head before you fall asleep.
That's interesting. I like it. I'm intrigued.
And I'm like, and everyone's like, you're neurodivergent. I don't know what you're talking about. But no. So my tab today, it's going to be a story that's in the series. It's one of my absolute favorite Roman history stories of something that happened. So, and what was really fun for me is because I'm not an academic. I never was an academic. So I got to like go to original sources for this one. And
nice.
So that was very indulgent for me as someone who doesn't get to do this. So my references are going to be obviously Mike Duncan's History of Rome. It's going to be a contemporary senator at the time named Cassius Dio. And then there is another one that was written 200 years later called the Historia Augusta, like the history of the emperors. And it's fun because, you know, there's going to be a lot of the narrative changes over 200 years. of
Nice.
who is a bad guy, who's a good guy. So, it's hard to know who to cheer for quite yet. So, have you seen Gladiator, though?
Yeah, that movie has always stuck out to me as, like, super memorable, especially Joaquin Phoenix's character. That was the first time I was like, ooh, that's a really good bad guy. I don't know how I feel about this, but I think I like it.
Yeah,
like I don't like him, but I like him.
Yeah. Iconic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's perfect you bring up Joaquin Phoenix, because that's where I'm going to start today. So that's Commodus. And Joaquin Phoenix is like the lightest, most PG version of Commodus. Commodus was literally insane. That's a whole other tab. It's a book. I'm not going to get into Commodus, but why I'm getting into him is that our story leaps forward because of how terrible he is. So Commodus obviously does the gladiator fights. That's true in the movie, but he is not killed by Maximus / Russell Crowe, but he is assassinated. So I'm going to get into how he was assassinated. But like essentially at this time, he's so crazy that everybody wants to overthrow him. Everybody wants to kill this guy. There are governors in distant provinces who have their own personal armies. They have a ton of money from ruling these different provinces. There are a bunch of senators who have a ton of money, but everyone's so terrified of him because he is so insane. He'll kill anybody for laughing at him. He'll just do crazy shit. There's no due process. And the way that he was well protected is there is a group of a private army of the emperor called the Praetorian Guard. And it had existed at this point for almost 200 years, or not quite that long, but maybe, almost 200 years. And it's a small private army. Do you know Star Wars? Are you a Star Wars person? Okay.
Definitely.
There we go. No, it's okay. It's all the same Venn diagrams. So do you remember like how the emperors always have those dudes in the red outfits that are different than stormtroopers? That's kind of the equivalent, where it's like they're always really close by. There's about 9,000 of them. So it's not like a huge army, but there's like a compact version of it. Commodus has this Praetorian Guard. He needs them to keep him safe. People will stab him on the drop of a hat if they could. And so the only way that they can keep him safe is if he pays them incredibly well. He has to pay them more than they've ever been paid, because it's essentially like hazard pay at this point. He is also paying them very well because about 150 years prior, so it has happened, there was another super uber crazy emperor named Caligula, which might ring a bell.
That does ring a bell.
He was murdered by the Praetorian Guard for being too crazy.
By the guard that's supposed to really protect him. So he's like, oh, uh-oh.
And that was the first time that had ever happened, ever. And that was about 150 years earlier. This had happened before. So he's like, I have to pay them to protect me. I have to pay them to protect myself from them. It becomes this kind of Chinese finger trap of like, how delicate is this balance? And also, he let them do whatever they want. Like, they are, like, if he doesn't like a senator, he's like, go rob his house. Take whatever you want. There's no punishment. Do what you want. So they're enriching themselves. They are not working hard. There's no like workout routines that they have to follow. They can just do whatever they want.
So basically their only rule is loyalty to him, and
he pays them.
The law doesn't apply to them?
Law doesn't apply to them. He gets paid very well. It is true actual chaos. And also this threat that they could kill him because they're right next to him at all times. Actually, so Laetus is his Praetorian prefect. He's basically the head of the Praetorians. And in all those gladiator fights that Commodus would do, Laetus is next to him in the actual like Colosseum. Like, that's how right-hand man this guy is he is always with him. And it's essentially this kind of mafia. There's a reason Italians invented the mafia. It's like this mafioso, like, you protect me, I protect you, kind of thing. Apologies to Italians. But Laetus is not loyal to Commodus. Laetus is loyal to Laetus. And so Laetus and Commodus's mistress, Marcia, poisons Commodus. Commodus is so drunk and so messed up, he throws up, kind of realizes he's been poisoned, starts getting very suspicious, goes and takes a bath, doesn't allow anyone near him. They essentially hire an athlete. It's like in all the original things, they say an athlete. So just like found a strong guy who goes in and strangles Commodus in the bathtub.
Oh my gosh. Like, okay, the poison didn't work.
Poison didn't work. It's almost like Rasputin. Like, you just got to keep going. You've decided this is going to happen. You're going to do it tonight.
Just commit. Full send.
And Laetus is committed because he had a plan. This was happening tonight. Not only is this happening tonight, this is New Year's Eve, 192. So the next day, and they followed the same calendar we do. So the next day, it is New Year's Day, 193. We now enter what is now known the Year of the Five Emperors.
Oh my gosh.
We're not going to go into all five. Don't worry. This is like not going to go that crazy. I think we're going to cover like 3. But
okay.
But just so you know,
just the good ones.
The saucy ones. I'm not going to get into like some not saucy guys. So goodbye, Commodus. Enter Pertinax.
Okay. That's a good name.
Isn't it good? It's like I'm super pertinent. Like he is very pertinent to the story.
Pertinent
Pertinax.
to the max. Call me Pertinax.
If you needed a job as PR in the Roman Empire, you would have had it.
That's what I've been aiming for my whole life is get me back there. I will do their PR.
That's basically what they were doing too. That's another tab. I'm not going to get into it. So Pertinax is super legit. He's a city prefect, so he's essentially like, almost like a mayor. He has a ton of experience. He had been working, he was older. Like, this is a great guy to pick. The Praetorian Guards have picked this guy. They're like, everyone's going to approve him. He's going to bring back law and order. Things won't be crazy anymore. So they go to Pertinax's house. Some accounts say he knew that this was happening. Some say he didn't. Who knows? And so they take him out to the Praetorian barracks where all of the soldiers are. It's in Rome, and they essentially present him to the soldiers, and Laetus says, this is who we want to be the new emperor. Do you guys agree? We're the mafia. We get to pick. The Praetorian Guards are like, yeah, if he pays us. Like, that's all we care about. Like, we can keep doing this, right? And then Pertinax is like, 100%.
Status quo, anything goes.
Status quo, anything goes. Coin of the realm. Are you going to pay me what I've been earning already? This is a lateral move. What are we doing? So it says in the sources that he won them over by offering 12,000 sesterces apiece. So let me translate into modern money.
Yeah.
The average Praetorian soldier at this time is making about $26,000 a year in our current money. That's less than an Amazon warehouse worker. It's like not great.
That's not a lot.
He just offered them $130,000.
Oh my goodness.
A piece. He's like, I'm going to give you a $130,000 bonus. So they're like, okay, great.
I guess.
Go, Pertinax. Yeah, totally. And so they march him over to the Senate, and the Senate's like, Pertinax, we love Pertinax. He's been doing a similar job. He's a cool guy. The Praetorian Guard likes him. We like him. Everything's great. Oh my God, Commodus is dead. Actually, there was a time that they thought this was a joke from Commodus, that he had faked his death to test them. That's how scared they all were.
That's how crazy he was?
Yeah. For a long time, people were like, not a long time, but like a couple of days, people were like, is this a joke? Is this a way to figure out who is a traitor? And so
oh my gosh,
they were really scared for a while. But then I think they probably showed the body, did something gross. So you'd think, wow, the story's over, right? No, it's the year of the 5 emperors. The story's not over. We've had, this is emperor number 1 is where we're at.
Yeah.
So
okay. $130,000 is not enough protection money a piece.
Oh, so you know where this is going already. You already know where this is going. You're so smart. Okay, so Pertinax has inherited a giant mess. This is like what every incoming president says, like my predecessor, the previous administration. This is exactly what's happening. The economy's in trash. The military's in debt. Commodus was taking the military on these huge campaigns, spending tons of money that he didn't have. And it says in the source material that Pertinax went to the treasury to see how much money was there, and it was $11 million in today's money to run a government.
That's not enough.
Pertinax is our guy. He's going to fix everything. And so all of the powerful governors in all of these different provinces who are running the empire, here it's Pertinax. They're like, oh shit, Commodus has been murdered, but we really like Pertinax. We're going to let him do it. We're going to let him fix everything. We're not going to question this. Everyone's happy.
I suddenly got a question. Did Pertinax just like have money to give to these people? Was he just loaded?
Nope.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Nope. He did what politicians do, which is they lie.
Overpromise and underdeliver.
But I get this idea of like wanting to bring stability. I mean, in everyone's common memory, I mean, Commodus had reigned, I think at that point, maybe like 20 years, which is a long time. You know, not even, I think it was maybe even 15 or something. So think back, 15 years ago, that's like Obama. Like before, it's almost like, actually, it kind of works almost if it was like, if you think about it, as far back as Obama, but before that, as long as you'd ever remembered, it had been the best presidents ever. No Nixons, no bad dudes. It was just, I can't do a Cave Nixon impression. I won't bother. But imagine you'd had great presidents 100% up until Obama 2008, and then it's like a madman. I'm not going to name any names, but a madman. And he's been murdered. So everyone thinks we can get back on track. And I think Pertinax is also like, we'll get back on track. We're going to get back to this glory times. The money's there. We'll figure it out. I don't think it was nefarious, if I had to guess, as a non-historian.
But a very well-educated, in this specific topic, non-historian.
Absolutely. I like stories, and this is a good story. So there was not going to be any uprising. So he realized, I can kind of scale back on a couple of things. Like, I don't have to like set up a big army. This is going to work out really well. So he started to both try and raise money at this point. So what he's doing is he's selling off all of this stuff that Commodus had. These are just like fun facts at this point because they listed some of the things that he had to sell off that Commodus had spent money on. One of them was he had a whole fleet of prostitutes that were just on retainer. They all were dismissed. They talk a lot about clowns that he had given really lewd nicknames to. The nicknames are apparently so lewd that just by making the names public, they were so disgraced that they had to leave. And so then they're no longer on payroll. So that's also great.
Did they just like have the function of like a court jester?
Yeah, and probably a sex slave, probably, if they had that bad of a nickname. I don't know, but they keep being referred to as clowns and buffoons. So, I mean, yeah. There's also, they mentioned that there are pots that were sold off that were specific for heating resin to remove chest hair.
Sorry, I'm suddenly picturing a yard sale with like these pots and also like my clowns are over here, my buffoons are right there.
And like the pots have like the little dollar sticker on it and the dollar's been crossed off and it's like 50 cents. There's a little hair stuck on it. Yeah, they're like used. It's used. That's not new with tag. And one of the biggest things that he sold off was a sex chariot. Was like a chariot that he could have sex in.
Oh my gosh.
Like on the move. So
why do I feel like there are so many world leaders who have definitely owned a similar thing?
A sex chariot? Yeah, and I bet they were expensive. You don't want a cheap sex chariot.
No. You got to invest.
Yeah, so Pertinax, he's balancing the budget. He's doing what all politicians say they're going to come in and do. They're going to be better than their predecessor. They're going to balance the books. And so now he's gotten some sure footing. He's like, okay, like, people like me. Nobody is going to come at me. So he reneges to the Praetorian Guard. He says, look, it's just not in the budget right now to pay you what I said I was going to pay you. You saw this coming.
That sounds like such a good idea.
So
of all the budget cuts to make, let's cut the people who like are literally the reason I'm still alive.
Yeah, let's go to the mafia and tell them we're going to pay them half. Yeah,
the worst could happen.
And then here's also the cultural shift that happened is Pertinax actually had been like a general. Like Commodus wasn't like this hard ass. Pertinax, he's starting to be like, it is your guys' fault Emperor was murdered.
Oh.
Like, really rude.
Yeah.
And essentially telling them, like, your guys are kind of bad soldiers. You're not doing, like, your drills anymore and your workouts. Like, he tells them, like, let's be soldiers.
You've let yourself go.
You've let yourself go. You guys are kind of, you're gross. And he had a reputation for being really hard on them. And he didn't let them,
say, like... you guys have been resting on your laurels, and then I realized, like...
It's literally
it's
resting.
Too much of a pun.
They've been
but
literally
then I
resting.
said it anyway.
Yeah, I love it. And also, they used to be able to go into these senators' houses who had been disgraced for trumped up reasons and steal other shit. And they can't do that anymore. There's kind of actual law and order in place. So Laetus, I'm bringing him all the way back. This is the guy who's like, we're going to murder Commodus. We're going to put Pertinax in. Like I said, Laetus is not, he's loyal to himself. He's loyal to his position. And he's like, I don't like this anymore. This is not good. So he tried a few soft overthrows, which were like not that Commodus hard overthrow. This was like a soft launch. One of them they did is they brought a senator who was wealthy to the Praetorian barracks, and they said, "Would you like to be emperor?" Like it was like a meeting, like a closed door meeting. And I don't know why this is what happened, but this is what the source material says. He, quote, fled from them quite naked and came to Pertinax in the palace and presented him with the plot and then departed from the city.
That's it. I mean, what choice do you have?
How did he get naked? How did that happen?
Yeah. You know, those days when you just go visit the barracks, and then you gotta you just gotta go, even though you've somehow taken off all of your clothes.
So that was one very soft, very flaccid overthrow. Nice try. And then another time, Pertinax is out of town. He was checking in on some corn supply things that you got to deal with. And they picked another senator whose name was Falco. Did you play Star Fox 64?
No, but I have played Super Smash Brothers.
So you know about Falco.
I know Falco. Yeah.
I should have gone with Super Smash Brothers. More people have played Super Smash Brothers than Star Fox 64.
But you're an OG, so.
Thank you. Yeah. So yes. So think of like Falco. Like I just imagine Falco being like, yeah, I could do it. But Pertinax found out on the road essentially about this coup and decided to just show mercy to Falco. He was like, actually, I'm sick of these like retributions. I'm sick of this like, communist way of doing things.
So he was really trying to actually do a good job.
He really was. He was trying to take the high road, and he's like, I'm going to just banish you instead. Right? Like, no one got killed. Everything's fine.
I feel like I'm like, wow, how tempered and measured and stuff. But I'm also at the same time like, this is the year of 5 emperors. So is this the thing that you're going to regret, or is it coming up later?
This is it. We've arrived at the regret. Yeah, he will never recover from this financially.
Oh, no.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
So what he decided to do is he said, the guys who tried to use Falco to overthrow me are the real villains here. And he killed those Praetorian guards who were part of that plot. So now Laetus, again, he's like, you can't kill my dudes. Like, now you're actually wielding like some real power in a scary way that we don't like anymore.
You're
and
infringing on my right to do whatever I want.
I have these boundaries, and you are crossing my boundaries. This is not okay. So he says, Mike Duncan in the History of Rome podcast, because I've listened to this episode so many times and I love it, where he's like, the only reason this stuffy old man was on the throne in the first place is the Praetorian Guard. And now he's stiffing them when the bill comes due, and essentially now like ruling them. And so they're like, who did he think he was? They made him. They can break him. So Laetus drums up 300 soldiers and says, Pertinax is killing all of us. Like, it's going down. It's us or him. Let's go and get him. So they march on the Imperial Palace. It's like a small band of like 300 dudes. And when they go inside, Pertinax is pretty brave. He stands up to them. And what he does is, the Historia Augusta says he, quote, sought to appease them with a long and serious speech.
Every like murderous mob has always been quelled by, just monologuing. Yep.
So no, it did not work. And how it all kind of went to shit was one of the soldiers just took a spear, hurled it right into Pertinax's chest. I don't know if it was the middle of the speech, end of the speech. I don't know.
Like I'm just picturing like, I will protect myself with the power of words, and it's like, no, you won't. Like, not from like weapons.
No, and also like, I feel like this makes sense even in today. If someone promised you $130,000 and then they gave you $75,000, you might get murdered. You just,
Yeah.
As soon as the guy throws the spear in his chest, the rest of them just stab him. Like, all of them are just taking turns. They're all equally culpable. They are all Julius Caesaring this moment. Pertinax is dead. So he reigned for 86 days. That was it.
But, at least we had that great yard sale.
All right, so we had 5, 1 down.
Okay.
We had the yard sale. People talked about that for years. They were just like, where'd you get that? It's like, oh, Pertinex's yard sale. Oh, my God. So good.
Oh, that clown.
The lemonade.
Really makes the room pop.
He's disgusting, but we love him. Speaking of disgusting, so then the Praetorian Guard took his head, fixed him off, put it on a pole, and carried it throughout the city back to the Praetorian barracks. They were heckin' mad.
Yeah.
But the problem is that once they got home and they're like, yeah, like, we did it, they realized when they killed Commodus, there was a plot. There was a plan. They were going to go and have Pertinax. Pertinax was the guy. It was going to work great. And Pertinax was going to pay them, and everything was going to be great. There are other 2 dudes. One of them ran away naked, and then the other one's doing a barrel roll somewhere. Like, that's all, like, he's gone. So they're like, shit, we've got a headless, dead emperor on the floor, and we got this head on a spike, and now we don't know what to do. So now what? Okay, so they start going through their options. They're like, okay, all these generals out in the provinces, in Syria and Judea and Britain and all this stuff, they're all hard asses. They're like military dudes who like fight barbarians on the reg. They are not going to deal with these lazy ass Praetorian guards doing whatever they want, right? They're going to come in and be worse than Pertinax, right?
Can I throw in a linguistics fun fact?
Please. Oh, I was hoping. I was like, I really hope that like you'll pepper this with some of that. I was like, I don't know what. I didn't want to put pressure on you, so anyway, please bless me with this.
So the term barbarian comes from the way that I'm pretty sure it was the Romans referred to. They would mimic the sound of the Germanic groups. And so they would mimic their language by just saying bar, 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 bar.
It's Durka. It's like Durka.
I don't know that reference.
Oh, it's from Team America World Police, where they say that all Arabs say Durka, Muhammad Jihad.
Oh my gosh.
So it'd be like if in like 2,000 years Arabs were known as Durkas.
Yeah. It's adding an O to an English word and suddenly it's Spanish.
Barbaro.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorites is No Problemo because, that's favorites, least favorites, same thing, Problem is it never ends in an O in Spanish. It always ends in an A. That was a double feature linguistics fun fact. So barbarians is because they sounded like bar, bar, bar.
So the generals in the provinces are going to be mean, and we don't want a mean guy. And also the Senate, if they ask the Senate, do you know what Senates do? They do a gross thing called democracy, which is like, no, that's not what we want. That's not what we need. We need someone who is powerful because we made them powerful, but also someone who can pony up big time. So like a very rich puppet. And Mike Duncan puts it like this, and every time I get to this part in the podcast, I laugh so hard. I'm not going to do it justice. Where he goes, so Latest hit upon a great idea. A really, really great idea that was just really, really great. They are going to auction off the role of emperor to the highest bidder.
Okay.
Right? That's in line with their values. That's what they want. This is ours to give. Speaking of yard sales, it's now an auction. So maybe they hit upon this idea because Pertinax's father-in-law was essentially the new city prefect after Pertinax had been elevated to emperor. And he was already in the Praetorian camp, in the barracks. He was already inside because he'd been sent there before Pertinax was murdered to try and negotiate with them a little bit. So he was already there. So I have a feeling they probably
he somehow managed to keep his clothes on. He's got that going for him.
I wonder what happened with that first guy. Maybe I don't know what was happening. There's a whole story there that is another tab for another day. But
some listener can open a tab and tell us.
Please tell me how you get naked in the Praetorian camp. Is there a history of other people gotten naked in the camp and ran out scared for their lives?
Is that just a thing you do? If it's like, you know what, I gotta leave the city. I'm first gonna tell the emperor about what's going on, but after I'm going to leave the city. And the best way to do that is naked.
Maybe it's just like a physical embodiment of being vulnerable. Like I'm out here.
I like that explanation. I want that to be the answer.
Maybe people are cooler being naked. I don't know. We'll have somebody find out for me. Some actual like classics major who's like laughing at me right now. But laugh with me, okay? Because so Pertinax's father-in-law is already there. They essentially just like turn and say like, "Hey, how much money would you pay for being emperor?" And he must not have said a high enough number, because they go, "Okay, great. We're going to put out some feelers. We're going to see.
We'll get back to you.
We'll get back to you. We'll see. We're going to see who else is out there." They did not like this number. Meanwhile, cut to crosstown is the richest man in Rome. This is my favorite dude in the story. His name is Didius Julianus. So all the feeler guys go out and they go to the richest man in town and they say, "Dude, there is an eBay auction happening right now for the role of emperor. You should totally go. You should totally do it." And there are some mixed reports of like his wife and his daughter pushing him to do it, but like the Romans have a long history of blaming women for things that weren't their fault. Either way, he goes. So he goes. So you can actually visit this today in Rome. There are the ruins of the Praetorian Barracks. It's a high wall. It's about 2 stories high. And the barracks had this wall that was kind of incorporated into the city walls. So Didius Julianus goes to this wall and he's like, "Let me in. I want to chat. I want to talk." They're not going to let him in. They're like, "How much money do you got? How much do you want to pay us?" So this is actual like source material. Quote, "Some of the soldiers would carry word to Julianus." So the name of the father-in-law is Sulpicianus. You can see why I've been calling him father-in-law this whole time and not Sulpicianus. Yeah. So, quote, "Some of the soldiers would carry the word to Julianus. Sulpicianus offers so and so much. How much more do you make it?" And to Sulpicianus, in turn, Julianus promises so much. "How much do you raise him?" So this is what they're doing.
Just a bidding war.
They're going back and forth, and they're shouting down at this wall. This is super public. It's the middle of the night. Pertinax is bleeding out on a floor like a half a mile away. And his head is on a spike inside where his father-in-law is being like, "Okay, 15,000. Like it's literally this back and forth barter war that's happening. And then Julianus, because they're so high up there, it's essentially like, really going for it in the middle of the night in a city. He's like holding up fingers. He's like being like whatever, like going back and forth. So Sulpicianus would have won the day. This is a quote, being both inside and being the prefect of the city, which is already a really good title, and also first to name the figure of 20,000. Had not Julianus raised his bid by no longer small amounts, but now 5,000 at a time. Although he at the end of the night promised 25,000, he ended up getting to 30,000 per soldier. So what is that in today's money? Would you like to know?
I would.
Okay, so again, their annual salary is about $26,000, okay?
Yeah.
Pertinax gave him $130,000. So now Jeff Bezos has come to you and says, "You have something I want." He's giving each soldier $326,000 each.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how bonkers it got that quickly.
Yeah. As a soldier, I don't know if I'd even believe that was going to be real.
It's so heightened. I guess it's the night air. Yeah. Who knows? Or just
killed a guy. Everything is like adrenaline right now.
We've killed 2 guys. They're basically this is a mafia like style war at this point against the office. Yeah. So like they're like living like that blank check, like Office Space, like Lotto movie where it's like we've gotten all this money. It's happened. So, like I said before, there's 9,000 soldiers. Each of them gets $326,000. Do you know what that is in today's money to pay all of these people?
It's a lot. I'm not doing the math in my head, but
please don't, because I have it right here. So please, this is not a test. That's $3 billion.
What? Did he have that?
Well, Well, it's called the Year of the Five Emperors, and we've only gotten rid of one.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, yay, 3 billion. They're like lifting him up, $3 billion. So they march him through the streets. They open up the Senate. They make all the senators come. And they basically all stand there with Tommy guns and say, like, why don't you make nice and make this guy the emperor? We like him. He's done good by us. You should make him the emperor if you know what's good for you. Thankfully, Titus Julianus, he did have military experience. He actually did have governing experience. Unlike most modern billionaires, he was actually, like, had some work experience. Yeah.
That's refreshing.
Yeah. He hadn't just, like, read Wealth of Nations and thought being rich was enough to help society. The senators didn't feel too terrible about agreeing to this offer that they couldn't refuse, but it's not great. What's extra fun is, like I said earlier, like, one of the sources is a contemporary, and then one of the other sources is 200 years later. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you what the contemporary source said that Titus Julianus did in the hours after he's become emperor. They say, so Cassius Dio says that after he's become emperor, quote, he goes to the imperial palace and finding that the dinner had been prepared for Pertinax, he made great fun of it and sending out every place, which by any means, whatever something expensive could be procured at that time of night, and proceeded to gorge himself while the corpse was still laying in the building, and then played dice.
Just a casual night. just a fun night in.
I'd always really liked Titus Julianus. I thought he was just like a rich, dumb guy. And then I read this and I was like, what a bad man. But then you read the one from 200 years later, and this is what they say he did. He gave no banquet until after Pertinax was buried, and because of his death, took what food he did in a very depressed state of mind, and passed the first night in continual wakefulness, disquieted by such a fate.
That is definitely the opposite.
Yeah, it's like total Spin City, misinformation. Yeah. I have no idea which one's true. And that's what's fun, I guess, about being a history professor is like you get to sit there and be like, which one's true? I don't know what they do. I assume it's that. So anyway, the next day, everybody wakes up and they find out their emperor's been killed again by the same people. And now there's a new emperor. These people are getting away with murdering emperors left and right, willy-nilly. And the people get heckin' mad. They are like, no. Like, the people of Rome, like, I don't care what the senator said. We hate this. So there's a couple of places where people were allowed to, like, kind of protest to the emperor. There were a couple of public places where they were allowed to gather. And Titus Julianus kind of goes there to hear with the people, and they're expressing displeasure. And he tries to bribe them, too. He's like, well, what if I give you guys money, too? And they were quoted as chanting, we don't want it, we won't take it. So do you know what he did?
Let them eat cake?
Oh, it's a little worse because she was kind of cute about it. No, he killed some people who shouted that. He had them killed.
Oh, so I'm guessing he didn't last long.
5 emperors. So then after those people were killed, common people were killed, there was a 24-hour protest that they staged in the Circus Maximus to basically be like chanting. And like you can, on the Palatine Hill, you can look down into the Circus Maximus. So he's hearing this and seeing this. And what they're shouting specifically is, are there any governors in distant provinces who would like to come?
What a chant.
Right? I mean, I think there was probably a catchier version of that, like, hell no, you should come. I don't know. That was not good on the fly.
Rhymed. Just super chantable.
There were so many guys who wanted to take this job. They actually wanted this job when Pertinax was killed. Actually, they've wanted this job since Commodus was around. They couldn't do it then. Couldn't do it with Pertinax. This is the time. They're so excited. I won't get into who each of these guys are. Each of them is a tab. Each of them is a whole episode. But essentially, there's 3 guys. They're the rest of the emperors for the year. So this is Year of the 5 Emperors. We've had Pertinax. We have Titus Julianus. There's going to be 3 more dudes. Sorry to Titus Julianus. You already know what's going to happen to him. But the most important one of these last guys is Severus of Pannonia. Pannonia is like Western Hungary, Slovakia, Austria. So he's pretty close. It's not like he's all the way out in Judea. Yeah. He's not in Brittany. He's kind of close. So he took 600 men and marched them day and night until they were getting close to Italy. And like I said earlier, these are the hard asses. These are the guys who are out doing it. They're soldiers. Like, that's all they do. They do the drills. They lift weights. They, do the whey protein. Like,
it is their personality.
This is their whole personality. Some men become governors, and then they pick being that as their personality. So Julianus sends out some envoys to Severus, and he's trying every, tactic, Mammoth style, okay, do you want to go home? And they're like, no. And he's like, do you want to fight me? And what happens, all these guys keep coming out and joining Severus's army. Like, every time Julianus sends somebody out, they're like, oh, wait, I should just join Severus's army. I'm also a huge Napoleon fan. Ridley Scott and me should definitely be friends. I feel like we just like the same stuff. And this happened, too, when Napoleon came back from exile from Elba. And as he was marching on Paris, he had a very small team. And and anytime they'd send out soldiers, he'd just be like, you know me? Like, I'm the GOAT. Like, I'm the best. Why don't you join me? No one has loyalty to Titus Julianus. No one's joining Jeff Bezos' army. It's not how it's going to happen. It's gross. No, there's no inspiration there. The army's getting bigger. It's getting scary. If you were Titus Julianus at this point, what would you do?
I think I'd run. If I were
You'd run?
I mean, if I'd already disgraced myself by bidding on it, why bother keeping any dignity? Why not just eat?
You're so smart. You would have lived. You would have done well. You would have really...
I have a survival instinct.
And it would have served you well. In history, it would have served you well. Today, it serves you well. But no. What he did is he freaked out and he killed Latus, our original bud who killed Commodus, also was part of killing Pertinax. He had him killed. He's like, I didn't do anything. That guy, I didn't do anything. That guy did everything. And he's trying to demonstrate, I'm just a ruler. I just got here. Give me a chance, kind of thing. I'm just a guy who stepped in. That didn't work. Severus doesn't care. He's still coming. He's coming for your job. So then he's like, okay, Praetorian Guards, I've paid you or promised to pay you very, very well. He has not paid them yet. It's been like a couple days. He's like, I need you guys to make a stand with me.
Even though I just killed basically a year later.
Totally. It's so messy. The problem is that the Praetorian Guards were now so rich, even if they had $75,000 from Pertinax or whatever it is, they're so rich. A lot of them just paid other people to do their soldiering work for them. They're like, I'm rich. I don't have to do this anymore. I don't care. So they got a bunch of interns to start building the barricades and ride elephants. They talk about people falling off of elephants who didn't know how to ride them.
I can't blame them for outsourcing their work. It's, I think, what I do in their position.
Delegate. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm
also
overwhelmed.
This is just a fragile system, guys.
And it's such these dials too, right? It's not like this happened over 50 years. This is days that this is happening. This is every economist's dream of what would happen, So Titus Julianus is not smart like you. He does not run away. He's like, okay, I can't fight him. I need creative solutions. Who are my creative thinkers here? Senators, what do you think we should do? Maybe I can be a co-emperor with Severus. I paid for it. So, it's kind of mine. I own it. What if he comes in and he's the bad cop? I'm the good cop. What if we do it together? And you rightly said earlier that this is a very militaristic culture.
Yeah.
The senators all turn on him and say, no, you're the emperor. You're the head honcho. You're a general. If you can't defeat him in battle, you don't deserve to be our emperor.
Did I kill him?
So we come back to our favorite people, the Praetorian Guards. The Praetorian Guards, if they're good at anything, they know which way the wind's blowing, right? If there's one thing they're good at that. They got so freaked out by this oncoming army that they are not going to fight. They have no incentive to fight. They don't have even the muscles to fight anymore. They've gotten very slovenly. That they self-arrested the 300 soldiers who came into Pertinax's palace to murder him. And they go to the Senate and they say, we are super cool with getting rid of Titus Julianus for you. We're super cool with it. Turn on him instantly. It's over. And they were hoping that by doing this, the Praetorian Guard would be spared. as a whole. They're like, if we just cut out these bad apples and, Severus is going to come and he's going to reward us. It's going to be great, right?
We've got such lovely scapegoats ready to go.
A whole field of scapegoats, exactly, all tied up and ready to go. So the Senate heartily agreed and sent soldiers to kill Titus Tulenus in the palace. And his last words are really sad. His last words were, "But what evil have I done? Whom have I killed?"
That is a fair point. But also, I don't think you would have been good at this job. I don't think you were good at this job.
I also want to be like, didn't you kill all those people who were chanting in the Circus Maximus?
Oh, that's true. Oh, man. So much is happening.
They kill him. His reign was only 66 days.
Okay.
That was it.
We are not very far into the year.
No, not even a little bit. His body was honorably buried. There was no parading it around on a spike. And Severus entered Rome. Nobody fought him. He got to march in. The citizens were ecstatic. There were laurels. There were flowers. He got to walk through the city. Nobody's going to threaten this guy. And after becoming the emperor, he killed those 300 Praetorians who had taken part in the slaying of Pertinax. And so Josie, I assume that know that there was 100 years of peace and prosperity after this, right?
Yeah, because it's the year of 3 emperors.
Well, the other two, basically Severus fights the other two and then defeats both of them. That's the short version of the rest of the year. It's not very interesting. At that point, it's just military, flags on a map kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of some co-emperor things. It's the tab is coming to a close here. But what's so funny though is that everything in Roman history that feels like an epilogue is actually just a prologue to something else crazy that happens.
Yeah.
So just if you're interested, if you got all the way to here and you're like, I want to know more, guess what? Severus's 2 sons, he tries to make them co-emperors because he loves them and thinks that they can do a good job. I don't know if that's true. I'm going to just make that up. And his oldest son, Caracalla, then murders the younger son, Geta. But then the Praetorian Guard murders Caracalla. It just keeps going. Just keeps going.
Awesome.
Keeps going forever.
Awesome. This sounds like the kind of empire that will never fall.
No, rock solid, built like a rock. Yeah, Ford tough, built Ford tough.
The Ford of empires.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because the Praetorian Guard was disbanded with Constantine, which is a completely different era. So it is emblematic of an era of corruption and decadence and military.
Wow.
But
fascinating.
So I love this story. I love the image of the bartering at the walls. I find that very evocative.
Yeah.
And I think about it a lot with current events with Elon Musk, supporting Trump and giving him tons of money. And then in the UK, they had 3 prime ministers in the same year, you know, where there's this turnover and chaos and there's no sense of continuity.
And people can't agree about what page they're on. So
you were such a good listener. I'm seriously going to live on this high of getting to tell this story in its entirety and not at a cocktail party for 10 minutes when someone asks me about my necklace. It felt really good. So thank you for that.
I loved so much of it. That was so good. Okay, so my tab is, I think, going to be a lot shorter. It's kind of a fascination I've had for a while. In fact, it's related to why I had a tab open on carcinization way back in December. So as a kid, I remember having a conversation with someone in my class where we were trying to figure out which was real and which was fake between the giant squid and the colossal squid. And that is a memory for me for some reason. And the ocean freaks me out because it's an alien world that we can't know. And, so I've always kind of been fascinated by especially how big things can get in the ocean. In fact, another tab for a different time is deep sea giantism. There are so many examples of things that get big. I thought
they just glowed down there. They're extra big too.
The things get so big. Tiny things get smaller and big things get bigger.
And that's related to pressure or just how big is the ocean so big?
I think it must be, and I actually will get into it a little bit, but
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, I have tabs open on the giant squid and the colossal squid, and they are both real, and we know so little about either of them.
I'm gonna have so many dumb questions for you. You're not even ready for how many dumb questions I got.
Great. I am not an expert, but today I get to.
That's this is the whole show. The premise of the show is like, doesn't it feel good?
Yes. One thing that like really fascinates me about this is like the legend of the Kraken has existed for years and years and years. Probably it isn't from giant squid and colossal squid because like they aren't really in the waters around Norway. So the giant squid is kind of everywhere, but not so much towards the poles. And the colossal squid is around Antarctica. So the legend of the Kraken might have been related to some other squid that once existed, and is its own tab in and of itself. Like one thing that
if they can get to mermaids from manatees, I can see people kind of making some leaps and bounds.
Oh yeah. But the legend of the Kraken, like as it existed in like Norse mythology, is it was this huge creature as big as an island. It would spend 6 months of its life eating and then 6 months of its life eliminating waste. and then all of these other sea creatures.
You're gonna say eliminating ships? It's like, no, just shitting, just pooping.
Yep. Yeah. It's always poop.
It's always poop. It always comes back.
Yeah.
All right.
The legend of the Kraken is there's enough about it that feels like it's plausible that there's some huge creature in the ocean because the ocean is so big. It's so big. It's so deep too. Setting a scene. Imagine you're like on a whaling vessel in the time of Ahab and you're hunting sperm whales near the Antarctic and stuff. And suddenly, like, as you're trying to hunt these whales, you see something in the distance, and it looks like all you see is like just a bunch of like red arms going everywhere, and all of these whales are like seemingly like in distress. They're not acting ways that you've seen them act before, and you can't tell what's happening. And then suddenly the water goes super murky, and you can't tell what's going on. The whales break up. Like, it would be so easy to be like, oh, so it turns out the Kraken's real. Like,
totally.
That to see like, oh, all of these whales are fighting something that's big enough to be, in their minds, attacking these whales. In reality, sperm whales are predators of these big squids. And so since they couldn't quite see things, like sailors often believed that there was some creature attacking that was big enough to attack whales, multiple whales at a time, instead of a pod of whales getting lunch.
Right. All like a pride of lions attacking the same thing.
Yeah. And they are massive, and they like for years the reason we understood that giant squids and colossal squids existed is because of evidence on sperm whales. Both giant squid and colossal squid have the ability to essentially like detach their arm, kind of like a lizard tail. If there's a predator, their arms detach pretty easily, and they both have like weapons. Like the giant squid has like serrated suckers on its arms. And
Metal.
So it can latch on to these sperm whales to kind of like rile them up, get them to hopefully like stop attacking them. But then like there's evidence of these whales with like arms still attached.
Oh my God, they left their arm at the crime scene.
Yes, yeah. And so for so many years, it was just like piecing things together. And so I'm going to get into like some facts about the giant squid, and then I'm going to talk about the colossal squid, which it's more fascinating to me, but they're both like...
We have to work our way up to it. Up.
Yeah. So the giant squid lives deep in the ocean. The giant squid, I believe, and I'm not 100% certain, lives at about 1,000 meters deep, which like converted into yards is like... It's basically 11 football fields down into the water is where they're like just spending their free time.
Weird.
They are also super big. The giant squid can weigh up to 275 kilograms. That's about 600 pounds. And like just to kind of put that into some context, a baby elephant on average is about 200 to 250 pounds. So yeah, so they're really big. And the giant squid is actually even longer than the colossal squid. It's the longest that we know of. So the females are bigger. And they are in the 12 to 13 meter range. That's about 39.
13 meters?
Yeah, like 40 feet long squid, and that's including like their tentacles, because every squid has arms and tentacles, and the arms are basically the things that operate like an octopus thing. And then they also have these longer tentacles that a lot of them use their tentacles more for like, you know, catching prey, and they're even longer. So
I'm like surreptitiously Googling now. So giant.
Yeah.
Oh, gnarly.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
yeah, I see them.
giant...
I see. Yeah, like it's like almost like a kite tail.
Yeah.
And that part is the tentacle. No, the tentacles are
yeah, that's the tentacle. The arms are like they usually have about 8, just like an octopus, and then the 2 tentacles on top of that.
Got it.
So
this is so helpful. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Now.
So if you are measuring basically just the mantle of a giant squid, that's only about 2 meters, or like 6.5 feet.
Yeah, a person.
Yeah, for
the
females,
a tall ass person.
Yeah, it'd be less for the males, but then if you add on like the arms and don't include just the super long tentacles, there hasn't been a specimen more than about 16 feet long. So from like the arms to the tip of the mantle. They are big. They're not necessarily whale big. Makes them great predators or great prey for sperm whales. Yeah. And giant squids get hunted by a variety of different whales, some sharks and stuff. I also learned, this was just kind of funny to me, that the main thing that the giant squid eats is something called an orange roughy, which is just an unfortunate name. And the orange roughy is also known as a slime head. And that's another image to Google, honestly. Like, it's crazy.
They're ugly. They are not pretty. It's not like a beautiful fish you'd want to. Ooh, no. Yeah. There's like a dude holding them. They're huge.
Yeah. So
huge is so relative in this story, by the way. I'm like, right? It's huge. It's like compared to
huge, and they're a snack for a giant squid. There's a bunch of evidence that suggests that large squids tend to engage in cannibalism, and it might just be that like they end up eating each other because they are like they see somebody else's lunch and they're like, I want that, give it to me, and instead I'll eat all of you. Like your lunch
is a frenzy.
So yeah, they're super big. There's a whole Wikipedia page, which I should mention my references. Like a bunch of this comes from Wikipedia. There's also some info from a website called Te Papa, which is a New Zealand museum, as far as I can tell, that does research into these marine creatures. There's also some stuff from Smithsonian website and magazine. I'm sure that we can put that in show notes, I assume. There are Wikipedia pages that exist just about sightings and specimens that we've been able to study of giant squids and sightings and specimens of colossal squids, because they are so elusive and rare to be able to like actually study, because it's so hard for us to get to 1,000 meters. And like every 10 meters down that you go adds an entire atmosphere worth of pressure. And
Holy Toledo.
By the time you get to 1,000 meters, that is 100 atmospheres of pressure. I found this fact that the furthest a human has ever dived, that we have documented, is 200 meters. That sounds like a story all by itself,
right?
and I have so many questions, and I had to not look into it in order to like actually stay on task. But yeah, so it's super hard for us to study them because it is really hard for us to get that deep. Specimens wash ashore. Like there's this place in Spain that has a bunch of like partial specimens wash ashore all the time.
How did they get all the way to Spain? I guess the current's taking them all the way from like the deep southern hemisphere.
So only the colossal squid is the one who sticks to Antarctica. but
Got
the
it.
giant squid is kind of distributed throughout the rest of the oceans, and they tend to avoid the North and South Pole.
Well, yeah, because like all the pictures I'm looking of these gnarly ones that aren't illustrations are all ones that have washed on shore. Like, so you can tell like that's like there's no sightings that you can do in the water that are super big. Like if one is lucky enough to wash on shore, you can pose next to it like this video or photo I'm looking at. It's so gnarly.
Yeah. So the first time that we started seeing like there have been some giant squids that accidentally got dragged up and were still alive when they were in fishing nets or on fishing lures or whatever, but died quickly thereafter because they'd already been injured and stuff. And so like most of the data of them alive came from them not where they spend most of their time. But there was this crew that figured out a way to try and study the giant squid. I'm going to get some of this info wrong, or I'm worried I'm gonna, so I'm pulling it up really quick.
That's fine.
Just to confirm.
We can't be cavalier about these. I mean, like I'm already like my sense of scale is already so warped at this point where you were like the furthest the humans ever gone down is 200 meters, and I'm like, that seems crazy. And then you're like, but they live at 1,000 meters, and I'm like, or no, I'm sorry, 10,000 meters, and I'm like, now like I understand outer space better than I understand the ocean.
Here's the thing, so does most of like we understand more about things in outer space than we understand about like the floor of the ocean.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's wild. But
we don't deserve to meet aliens. Like if we can't even figure out the aliens that live among us with these like colossal giant squid, like, and they, they talk to each other. You know that they probably have a secret society down there.
Oh, for sure. There are a few times when the giant squid has been caught on camera in its natural habitat. And one of these times was near Japan. They put together a bunch of like basically shrimp and stuff on a lure, and they had a camera set up with a flash, because when you get to 1,000 meters, you stop. Like basically that's deep enough that not a lot of sunlight even gets that low. So they had a camera set up on a flash and this shrimp ready to go, and a giant squid came by and got snagged on like the rope and was fighting for like 4 hours to get free, which is like, I feel bad for the guy, but like we ended up getting a bunch of photos during these like 4 hours that the squid was snagged, that helped us understand some of how they work. So those sightings are so rare in its natural habitat. For a long time, the theory with these giant squids was, okay, they must be hard to find because they're kind of rare. But they started doing the math. People smarter than I am started doing the math based on like they'd find dead sperm whales and study the contents of their stomach. And based on the number of beaks in their stomach, they started being able to start estimating how many giant squids might exist.
Sure, like a replacement rate. Like you can do some reverse engineering from that.
Yeah. So if sperm whales eat an average of one giant squid per week throughout an entire year, they'd collectively be consuming about 18,700,000 giant squids per year.
Whoa.
Which means like on any given day of the week, 51,000 giant squids would be getting eaten.
And replaced, like, and then having enough. Yeah. Like they're not just wiped out from one, gorge.
Right. Yeah. And the population continues to be like a way for sperm whales to like be able to eat, and a bunch of other creatures too. But scientists think that actually it's more likely that instead of eating one per week, sperm whales are eating one per day.
Oh my God.
So that means that it's about 131 million per year are getting eaten by sperm whales. Which
just
means just eaten. And only by sperm whales. And there are other predators that eat giant squids. That means that every day, 358,904 giant squids, approximately, are getting eaten. Which means that, like, The ocean is full of giant squids.
Like, what's wrong with our research methods? Like, it's just we gotta get some deep water cameras going. We need some grant money. They're there. They're there to be found.
Seriously. Well, the colossal squid has been even harder to find. There are even fewer specimens. There was one juvenile colossal squid that was pulled up from the deep and died pretty quickly. And I believe it was this Te Papa place in New Zealand that they bought the specimen from these fishermen who like immediately preserved it, realizing like, oh, this is a big deal. That was not a pun. It was, but I didn't mean it. There was another fishing crew that found a colossal squid frozen in an ice block. And
don't like, melt it. It's definitely got an ancient disease there, or it's definitely the first one.
Honestly, melting it was a super difficult thing by itself because they had to the arms melted super quickly because they're a lot thinner than the big mantle.
Yep.
And so they had to find a way to basically like preserve the arms and prevent rotting while the mantle kept defrosting because of like how disproportionately distributed these things are.
CDC guidelines say that you can't melt a colossal squid in the fridge. It doesn't work that way. You're gonna get listeria.
Seriously, I'm gonna pivot to the colossal squid.
I got excited and I just Googled giant squid versus colossal squid, and I see what you mean, that the giant squid has those kite tails that go off, like they're basically double its body length. And then the colossal squid is just like this monster, fatter version of it. It's a little bit like Laurel and Hardy. Like there's a big fat one that's massive, and then there's like a longer skinny one.
Yeah. So like if you remember, the giant squid weighs about 600 pounds. At least by the time we're able to study them, they have weighed 600 pounds. The colossal squid is over 1,000 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it is much more massive. They also get hunted by sperm whales. For the colossal squid, the babies tend to live between like 0 and 500 meters. And then as they get a little bit bigger, they can handle more depth, and they end up living in more of the like 500. And I saw two different sources that kind of like disagreed on this. It's either 500 to 1,000 meters or 500 to 2,000 meters. So
they graduate as they get older.
Yes, yeah. And then the biggest ones, the full grown, live, and this still isn't even the deepest part of the ocean. Like there are different names for the different zones, and I'm forgetting the one that they exist in most, but after that is the abyssal zone or something like that.
And I've seen the abyss.
Deep sea trenches.
Yeah, the Marianas Trench. Yeah. Which is like if you took the Burj Dubai Tower and inverted it, I think that's how deep down it goes. I remember seeing that. Oh God.
Yeah. I think that the zone where they live is, I don't want to say things.
Alyssa's going to put up the infographic that shows like Eiffel Tower, like Burj Dubai, like whatever, like as deep, like they're basically like where clouds are is like how deep down,
Yeah. Ooh. I had a tab open on this that I closed. For the most part, I didn't close any of these tabs as I went, but it was hard not to. And I'm realizing I closed the tab that was telling me about like the different deep sea zones. Anyway, so there's another zone that goes as deep as 4,000 meters. And that's where the adults live. So, not quite 4,000 meters, but like that's about as far as they go. The specimens that have been like caught on fishing hooks, they are so massive that as they come to the surface, they start to collapse under their own weight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shoot. Yeah.
It's just super, super hard. But there's just not a lot of light down there. But you gotta
meet them where they are. Like, is essentially the point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In order for us to like actually understand this, we are gonna have to find a way to like get to them. But another thing that like just fascinates me about the colossal squid is they have ginormous eyes. It might be the largest eye that has ever existed in the animal kingdom.
Sorry, I'm looking at a picture of it and I got like a jump scare.
Yeah. They are massive. They are usually about 12 inches wide, a full foot. The largest one we've ever documented was 16 inches in diameter, and we have no idea if that's like typical because we have so few samples.
Yeah.
And I was just like, as I was reaching this, I was like, so what do they even do with it? Like, there's not sunlight down there. What do they do? And it's also deep enough that like there's not a ton of bioluminescence even that deep. But most bioluminescence is in more the giant squid zone. These are just like some really fascinating things that I learned about giant or colossal squid vision. One of it is that it's essentially like a headlight. They have some photo sites or something like that. So their eyes are able to glow. And on top of that, they have like a symbiotic relationship with some bacteria that have bioluminescence. So essentially, they project some light out into the black ocean. There's also some plankton down there that kind of bioluminesce when they get disturbed. The reason that they have such massive eyes is because they need to be able to perceive a sperm whale coming, because that's their main predator, at least as adults. They have gotten really good at detecting the bioluminescence, those tiny little bits of light, up to or over about 120 meters away.
They're not seeing the sperm whale. They're seeing the disturbance of the bioluminescence. It's like a ghost. It's like an echo of the thing coming because it's pushing the water and moving them.
Yes. Yeah.
Whoa.
And so they have a form of hearing that is kind of similar to the way we hear, but it hears much deeper frequencies. And they are essentially deaf to the sonar of sperm whales. So they're not going to be able to hear them coming. They have to be able to see them coming. A sperm whale sonar works for them up to about 120 meters. So they can see the slight changes in things beyond what the echolocation, the sonar of the sperm whales.
Right.
So that's essentially how they have been able to survive, is by having like mega eyes so that no light escapes, which is fascinating again, because then the females have to come towards the surface because that is too deep for their eggs. So they come to the surface, and that's where all the babies are. And so like I just, the sunglasses that I would want in that situation is just crazy. Like to be that good at seeing any little bit of light and then have to go to sunlight.
Right.
Even if it's like still dark, I
there's
can't.
no equivalent. There's no human equivalent of like, oh, the only place that I can give birth to my babies is at like 20,000 feet in the sky on a sunny day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
yes.
it doesn't, we don't have a translation for that. Oh my God.
No.
It's like submarine warfare where it's
Yes.
like they just have different technologies of detecting these massive movements in the water. And then they're like trying to like surface to like do, I mean, it's crazy, the ballet of it.
Yeah. But this is also a theory I have about like why we haven't really been able to find the colossal squid, is because in order for us to send any equipment, first of all, we haven't figured out how to send equipment that deep. But second of all, even with the juveniles, in order for us to send equipment that deep, they also have to be able to see us disturbing the water nearby. And then that's like when they get out of there.
Yeah, we're like big dummies tromping through the forest and cracking all of the leaves and stuff. And then we're like, there are no deer. There are no deer. There's no deer. Yeah, it must be very rare.
Yeah, exactly. So it has me wondering, like, are they as common as the giant squid? Definitely they're not as well distributed, but like if their population density is anything like the giant squid, and we just haven't been able to find them, like it freaks me out and fascinates me in like such a fun way. So another like few interesting things that I just love about the colossal squid. About 80% of their brain power goes towards vision.
Whoa.
Yeah. That is so much of what they're good at.
Is that for hunting those orange roughies too? Is it for like seeing them, or is the seeing more about just defensiveness? Do you know? I
don't know, and I don't know that science knows yet, because like we see the application to like, okay, if there's a sperm whale coming, and based on like these eye specimens, we can estimate that they can see beyond just barely beyond 120 meters, which means that they can see far enough that they would be able to see a sperm whale coming before the sperm whale can detect it with sonar. Otherwise, there's so much we don't know about so much of them. Another thing that really fascinated me, and this might be true of multiple squids, but I think it's like such a delightful fact about it, is that it has a donut-shaped brain.
No. There's a hole in its brain?
It's
I guess it's not donut, a hole if it's
and
your
straight
brain.
Through the center is its esophagus.
I've done so many tabs in this like past, like I'm just like giant eye squid compared to human, giant eye squid compared to colossal squid eye, like, and now I'm gonna have to just do Is that true of the giant squid too?
I don't know. I can see it being true, but I didn't.
This
see
is messed up. We don't deserve to talk to aliens. We don't deserve it. Like, if these is this why in Inception, or not, in Arrival, they look like colossal squid? Did you see Arrival?
I did. I loved Arrival.
Is that why they look like colossal squid or giant squid? It's because it's basically the closest thing we have to aliens right now.
Maybe. That's my theory. The beak, or essentially the mouth of the squids, is like what we found in sperm whale stomachs and stuff. And I'm gonna send a photo of just the beak of a colossal squid.
Yeah, I'm just like looking at these serrated suckers and stuff that's coming up on my searches right now.
So if you like scroll down,
a lot of past of some definite alien autopsies. Got it. Suckers.
Yeah, all the creepy arms.
I scrolled past it because I didn't know what I was looking at, and now I'm like, that looks like a really delicious pastry.
It's huge. This is just the like mouth. Just the little beak of the
and
colossal
it's this
squid.
big. Yeah,
and it's like, it's so big. It's got this like giant pastry for a mouth. It's got volleyballs for eyes.
It's got a donut for a brain.
And then its suckers have all these like swiveling knives on it. They've got these hooks that somehow swivel, which was something I couldn't like wrap my brain around. I was like, but they're suckers. How do they swivel? This is why we haven't found alien life. Because we haven't found all of this. This is kind of where I'm drawing it to a close. The efforts to find and study the colossal squid. There's this new research project that set out in 2022, 2023 to see if they could document footage of the colossal squid alive in its own habitat. And honestly, I think it's like kind of brilliant how they did it. So they have about 200 tourists with them. They set off from South America, and there are a bunch of different tourist destinations. And then there are these scientists who, like, while the tourists are like going to like enjoy penguins and stuff, they will send a camera deep into the ocean and then just like watch it for hours and reset it, because any little thing might make it so that the camera is suddenly not working, or like something gets snapped or whatever. And so they're constantly having to watch it, and then they like follow it through. They keep watching it, and then they go to sleep for a couple of hours, and they wake up the next day and start setting it up again. And apparently all of these tourists, they've been on this, they've also been asking about like, okay, have you found the giant squid? Is it like, they ask for updates, they get fascinated. And I mean, if I were a tourist on this boat, which I would never, I'm not a cruise person, but B, I'm not an Antarctica person.
No,
I want to know everything about it without having to like be cold.
That's what the internet's for. No feelings of
internet's
cold on your arms ever again.
Yeah. But if I were one of those tourists on this boat, I would definitely be doing what they're doing, which is like coming up and watching and see, like, just getting so fascinated, because the deep ocean is such a mystery. Apparently these scientists, Herbig and Mulrennan are their names. As they've been doing it, like, it's such a charming picture of like human curiosity and like what we want to do with it, and like some of these tourists have been bringing the scientists hot chocolate because like they're overnight and
they value the work. They know the rigor and the dedication and the martyrdom to it.
Yes. So they caught some footage of a squid in the zone where the colossal squid lives. So this is unconfirmed footage.
Sick.
It honestly, like,
even
the
better.
whole feeling behind it reminds me of like the Sasquatch footage. It's about
Zapruder.
that much that we see. We don't actually know quite if we're seeing what we think we're seeing or not. But if you scroll down, it's about halfway through. There's this could be footage of a colossal squid for the first time, and they have another voyage that's set to happen in 2025 sometime.
That's my face just watching it on the loop, like.
Yes,
you're just trying to imagine the scale of it too.
Yeah. And what's wild is because of deep sea giantism, and because we know so little about the deep sea especially, this might be a colossal squid. It could also be another species of big squid called glass squid. And it might also be another species that's previously been unknown to science. Like,
oh my God. It could be anything.
Yeah.
It literally, because all you just see is just, I mean, and I know that they're really good at analyzing this kind of stuff now with like digital tools and things, but oh my God, it could be anything. It could be an alien.
It could be an alien. I love things where it feels like, how do we still not know? You know, and it feels like this is such a thing that, like, we know so many facts and figures about like all of these emperors and what was going on years and years and years ago. And we can't figure out what's happening today because that is further out of reach than the past. And like, just even like philosophically, I'm just like, how is this even a thing? How is this possible?
Well, and space feels like such a perfect inverse of how much we know about things happening 250 light years away. You know, that we're able to like understand how light bends things and able to like make projections and understand, and we're able to use prisms to understand the chemical makeup of a planet.
Yes.
And we don't have a single picture of a colossal squid except for like this one.
Yeah. And this is the best we can do. One thing I really love is one of those two scientists that's on this that was on that trip that happened where they caught this footage. He has a tattoo to commemorate the first known documented sighting of a colossal squid, which was in 1925. And next year, it's going to be the 100-year anniversary. I just feel like we've waited long enough. Let's just find it.
Look, the way we know so much about sperm whales is because they were full of spermaceti and we could use it for stuff. We just need to tell some billionaire that inside of a colossal squid is definitely like a Midas touch or something. It just needs to be funded. And then all of a sudden we're going to have a race to the bottom.
Yeah. Which honestly, like, that's why I was like, oh, it's so smart to do it on a tourist vessel.
Yep.
Like, even though you're kind of a little bit at the whim of like, I guess we're going to go see the Falkland Islands now. But we know that there are giant squids near there. So,
yeah, it just comes down to funding.
Yeah, you just got to like figure out how to commercialize it and, don't start bidding wars on emperors. I feel like these are the keys to success.
I hope for a utopian future where science is for science's sake. I mean, where it's just about the pursuit of curiosity, Star Trek style. And we figure out, because it is so crazy to think about. Like, I get very uncomfortable thinking about the deep ocean in a way that I don't about outer space, because it feels, I'll never go to space. I'll never go to space.
Yeah.
I think they even said that on the last episode, that both Hannah and Kaveh would never go to space. And I'm like, hard agree. And I would never go to the bottom of the ocean.
Never.
You're not. You're like, I don't even want to go on a tourist boat to Antarctica, much less further down.
No. Yeah. Even the idea of like the plane ride to Hawaii. I am in the air and I'm fine, and I don't like how much ocean there is below me.
No, I know. That's a whole other tab too. Is like that point in the ocean where you're the furthest from land. That's in the Pacific. It's like a very specific point where you're at the absolute mercy of our planet.
It's so stressful to think about. But yeah, this is also why I can't stop adding to my watch later on YouTube videos about like footage from the deep ocean where it's like, we didn't know about this jellyfish before, now look at it. Like,
oh, now I'm gonna look at it. Now, like even just going to that website, I was like, oh, it just keeps going. You just keep scrolling, and it's all the stuff that they found, and like the stuff they found in sperm whale stomachs, and you're just like,
yes,
God, they're all there. They're all hanging out down there.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's my tab. My many tabs.
It was great. That's fantastic. I am so glad that it was such a scale. Like slide whistle of just of like, okay, they're this big and they're this deep, but wait, there's more. There are actually other ones that are this deep and this big. And now anytime I'll ever see and now I'll get it in my algorithm because it's seen me search this, and so now I'll think of you. I'll think of you every time that I see anything underwater related.
That's delightful. I think every time I think of the Roman Empire, I'm gonna think of you.
Oh, that's the highest praise I could ever receive. I want to, like, when that trend was going, people were texting me. They're like, oh, who know me, were like, oh, is this fun for you? And I was like, this is the most, this is great for me. Can't wait till Gladiator 2 comes out. It's going to be the same thing. And we just need to get a remake of The Abyss for you. We need to get James Cameron back on the boat, back underwater.
And then
we need more content.
Colossal Squid content. That is what I'm here for.
Well, I don't know what our tab closing sound should be.
No.
Because I've got stabbings and money, and you've got boats and swirling tentacles.
Stabbing with like the sound of a bunch of coins dropping.
That's good because it's your tentacle hook stabbing into an orange roughy.
Yeah.
But it also could be a Praetorian Guard stabbing Pertinax in the chest with a spear. It's just stabbing. They're just good stabbers. Good stabbers across the board. Okay. So we're going to count down to 3. Okay. I'm going to close down my Didius Julianus. Which tab? Are you going to close all your tabs? That might take you a minute.
I will just close the tab collection.
All right. We're going to count down together. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Close the tab. Gone. Good. Oh, good. And then we've got listener emails, but these are not listeners. These are talkers. Because our first email is from Kava. I think that's how you say his name. Kaviv. I always just call Kavi Kovs, which is funny. Who's to say? I just call him Kovs, which maybe that's derogatory. But Kavi writes, Dear Josie and Josie, I'm a huge fan of your editing work. Aw. And also whatever other Josie does that I am not familiar with. Searching up stuff about colossal squid and sperm whales. That's what she does.
Yeah. And linguistics fun facts.
That's all of it, all day, all night. But of which I'm nonetheless vehemently supportive. I recently closed an article titled Why Southern Californians Love Saying the before freeway numbers. I had originally opened this tab when preparing to go to New York and Emerald City Comic Cons last year. I wanted to do local variations on my Don't Take the 405 Mothman stickers and was curious as to why we were the only ones who used the. Apparently, this has to do with the Los Angeles freeway's long history of being a huge pain in my ass. Same, hard same. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, LA raised local funds and built several of its own freeways that had nothing to do with the interstates and whatnot. Each freeway name denoted their route or destination. The freeway through the Cahuenga Pass was the Cahuenga Pass Freeway, and Angelinos knew the freeway to San Bernardino as the San Bernardino Freeway. Makes a lot of sense. When the National Interstate and Defense Highways Act of 1956 provided the rest of the U.S. with a bunch of freeways. Everything. Remember when we used to build infrastructure? Do you remember? That was cool.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Back in the day.
The bridges, dams. Wow. What a time. Build back better. With a bunch of freeways, everything became standardized with the numbers, i.e. 99, 605, etc. While Angelenos had no problem shifting to the number instead of the name, the definite article of the would prove too painful to part ways with, hence the 405, the 101, the 110, the 205. What else do I take? The 45, the 90, the 10. I think that's all the ones I take. Thank you both for taking the time to host such an excellent episode that the tens of listeners of this mid-podcast will be delighted to hear. So many friends. Love, Kaveh. And there's his tab. P.S. You can purchase my Mothman stickers and many other fantastic items at blacksmithfilms.com. The reason Kaveh says so many friends is we were working on a short film together, and we had a lot of bags to carry, and all of a sudden there was enough people to carry all the bags, and I said, so many bags, so many friends. And he was just so delighted that I was so delighted to have so many friends, and so that's the story of that. But yes, you should definitely get in on all the Mothman inside jokes about Los Angeles, because then Kaveh's going to probably expand it to your city if you ask him very nicely. And he'll do whatever
awesome.
the freeways you've got. He'll do it for you. All right.
I lived in Southern California for a bit, and that is one habit that I kind of picked up. It bugs people so much when I'm like, oh yeah, the 15 or whatever, and yeah, so it's mostly gone, but it sneaks out every now and then.
Oh, totally. I'm from Nebraska, and our main highway, interstate is 80, and I say the 80 now, and people are like, it's I-80. It's interstate I-80.
Yeah,
I-80. So.
It pops up most with the 80 for me. Like,
oh, look at you.
Yeah.
80, yeah. That 80 life.
And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with, like, because the 80 also connects to where, like, Hannah lives. And so I've road tripped out there. So maybe that's why it's still sticking. I don't know. But anyway, speaking of Hannah, our second email is from Hannah in San Jose. Hannah says, hey, Josie and Josie. Longtime host, first time writing in. Since the beginning of 500 Open Tabs, I've been forced to listen not only to each episode at least 3 times, but also to Kama on an almost regular basis. You would think it means that I'd be tired of endless insane facts about marine life or missing every single pop culture reference thrown my way, but you'd be wrong. Because today, I'm writing to share a tab of an article about both. Particularly a dolphin named Kathy, who played the role of Flipper on the 1964 TV spin-off that was released following the original Flipper movie. Sorry, no 90s Elijah Wood wearing a vomit-covered Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt in this story. How's that for a movie reference off the top of my head, Kava?
Kathy is such a 1964 name.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so she said, the story is actually pretty sad.
Oh, no.
Which is super out of character for me. Kathy was a dolphin who was captured from the wild and trained to be a movie dolphin. Apparently, she committed suicide after the Flipper show ended. Apparently, she had acute depression due to captivity, so that she swam into her trainer's arms one day and stopped breathing. Oh! Her trainer, Rick O'Berry, has been fighting for the protection of dolphins and whales ever since. That's sweet. On the flip side, she wrote, "Get it?"
You gotta put a joke in there somewhere, because I'm like devastated.
I know. On the flip side,
you know how smart they are. You know, it's like yeah.
That's how I feel about like octopuses too.
I know. Yeah, pigs.
Mm-hmm. Also, the plural of octopus could be another linguistic tangent for me, but I'm gonna refrain.
So hard. It's so hard to be us.
On the flip side, many say that there's no proof that it was suicide and have called into question whether or not animals can actually commit suicide. That's fair. O'Berry argues that since dolphins don't have automatic breathing like humans, Kathy chose to stop breathing, hence suicide. Interesting. Anyway, sorry I wrote in about dolphin suicide. Keep it Josie. Hannah.
I'm like, believe dolphins. Okay, let's believe dolphins. You know, if dolphins are telling us that they're so depressed that they want to stop breathing, it's not for me to say that they're not capable of doing that. I believe dolphins.
Yeah.
They're smart enough. The fact that they and the mice escape at the beginning of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has given me a lot of respect for them.
I don't think that there were enough mentions of death in this episode, so it's a good thing Hannah, helped me.
You were getting the millions. You were getting in the millions.
That's
of
true.
Squid
That's
deaths.
very fair.
Millions.
Yes. Yeah, but I didn't humanize them.
Okay, well, look, if you're just as demented as apparently the four of us are, you should submit a listener email. I very much enjoyed the audio, the voice one. That was very cool. That felt very real for me too, because I was like, I'm a real person too. Send your recently closed tabs to 500 opentabs@gmail.com. Give us a quick blurb of something fun you want to share, the link, and where you are writing from.
Yeah. And also, don't forget to support the podcast on Patreon, or you can also subscribe to the YouTube or join the Discord. I have heard that there's a bunch of Josies in the Discord. You can keep it Josie in that way. And check out the 500 Open Roads, which is where they link some of the tabs they've covered to a map. So all of those links are in the show notes.
Oh, they might add my Praetorian Guard barrack to Rome. That'd be fun. And then they should add your tourist boat where you can get on.
Yeah. Yes.
Hop aboard. You can also follow us at 500 Open Tabs on Instagram. So basically, it's just good to cover your bases and just go to each one of those and ring that bell. This was the best way I could have possibly spent this day. Like, I have a meeting in 30 minutes. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to even prepare my brain to think about other things right now. And for clarity, I'm Josie with a Z, because I was like, oh, my last name has 2 Z's in it. I should be Josie with a Z. And when I saw your email that said Josie Juarez with a Z, I was like, why does she go by the S then? And then Hannah's like, no, it's Juarez.
It's
with
Juarez,
the S
yeah.
So
in
it's
Spanish,
Josie Juarez.
The Z sound isn't really a thing, and so it's just the S sound. Josie.
So Josie's
Juarez.
sound out in the Discord. Is it Z or is it S? Is my theory true? But either way, thank you, Josie. This was really, 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 really cool. It was really fun.
So fun. This was a good time. Okay, well, I guess keep it Josie, everybody.
So I have one thing left to say: keep it Josie, or Josie. Either's good.
Yeah, keep it Josie and Josie and whichever you want, I guess.